You're listening to the Ones Ready podcast, a team of Air Force Special Operators forged in combat with over 70 years of combined operational experience as well as a decade of selection instructor experience. If you're tired of settling and you want to do something you truly believe in, you're in the right place. Now here's your host, PJ team leader, jiu-jitsu lover, meme enthusiast, and dad joke aficionado, Aaron Love.
That was literally the world's worst clap that I've ever gotten in our entire careers. What's up, everybody? Back here in the team room after the world's worst clap. Listen, we have claps that start the podcast. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're bad. You just got to roll with the punches. And today's one of those days where the clap didn't really go well. You know what is going well? Hearing from you guys on all of our socials. When you guys go to Instagram, when you talk on the YouTube comments, when you go and you check out all of our projects, we just want to say thanks. We appreciate you for coming in here every Saturday, checking out the YouTube, checking out the podcast, and hearing what dumb things we can come up with every single week. You got to trust me on this one. There is no limit to the dumb stuff that we can come up with. So stay tuned in. Check us out on Ones Ready. Go to onesready.com. Check out the shop. Buy a sweet shirt and some flags. We'll get those bad boys in stock for you as soon as we absolutely can. And we appreciate everything that you guys do. So thanks. Hit that like button on the podcast player of your choice. Leave us a review. We love hearing it. One thing that I've heard here, Trent, are you aware that people say that you have better hair than me?
I am acutely aware of that fact, and it's actually one of the things that I tell people when I meet them.
So you tell them that, hi, I'm Trent, and I have better hair than Aaron. That's your go-to?
That is my intro.
What product do you use in your hair, Trent? Would you say that you have a favorite?
Funny you should ask. I recently re-upped my purchase of Out of Regs pomade, Out of Regs with an S, and I actually switched over from the pipe hitter to the Dirty Mike. I like them both. Good for different situations. I think Dirty Mike's a little more firm, just like Dirty Mike is. But it's fantastic. I love it.
I knew it. See, I'm a sea salt spray guy myself. The sea salt spray is amazing. You couple that bad boy up with a pipe hitter, and we are 100% good. Peaches has the power alleys, so I know that the Outer Regs pomade is something that he just has on his shelf just in case that hair crops back up. So, yeah, go to Outer Regs pomade. Use our code at Ones Ready at checkout, and you guys will get a sweet discount. They've been with us since the beginning, and we wouldn't tell you about it if we didn't use it ourselves. And I just re-upped my sea salt spray, my pipe hitter myself. You could be Dirty Mike like old Trent, which is hilarious. I love that this podcast is already off the rails, and we're about 2.5 seconds in. So that's fantastic. Outer Regs pomade. Check it out, everybody. Appreciate it. So down to business. We wanted to talk about not only one thing that's near and dear to our heart, but we kind of laughed because we had never really broached this subject before, and we wanted to talk, get together today and no kidding, talk about what is Ones Ready? What is the idea behind it? What does it really mean? It can mean a lot of different things. And when we were kind of trying to figure this whole thing out way back in the beginning, we wanted to get something that meant something to the entire AvSpec War community. It wasn't even AvSpec War at that time. It was just starting, back then. So we're going to take it all the way back to the beginning and kind of talk about it. Talk about, hey, what does this really mean to us? And then, how can you apply that as you take this little journey with us? So, Peach, I'll start with you, Chief. When you went all the way back, it's almost 2 years ago now. I think this is, the podcast is going to be in the 80s, just about, which is insane. I never thought we'd get past podcast 2. We barely finished podcast 1, so the fact that it's 80 episodes later is a big deal. But man, take us back to the beginning. What did you think when we started off on this crazy thing?
Well, I didn't know what to do. I didn't know why. Actually, it was more of why would anybody listen to it? I mean, because let's be real, I'm not that articulate. I'm not that good looking, definitely. So why would you tune in? Yeah, right.
Oh,
yeah. Oh, shucks. Just give me compliments. That's what I'm fishing for. And really, because I wasn't on social media either. I hadn't done really social media until we launched this thing. So I didn't realize the demand signal for it and how much people were, looking for information out there. So actually going and doing the research and trying to find information was extremely difficult just for me, just because I was curious. And there's just so much of it out there, and that a lot of it's outdated. And it just kind of made sense. And when Brian kind of approached us on it, and then we all hey, let's do this thing. It was It was good. Kind of a little, not scary, but a little hesitant at first because, again, like, why is anybody going to listen to us? But just so far, I mean, it's been an awesome journey. You want to talk about getting to converse and engage with really interesting people with extreme stories, both, privileged stories and then a lot of ones that are, not so good, come from poverty, homelessness, just a lot of struggle, which you guys know I like struggle. But, some of the people that you get to meet are incredible. And then they go through, and then I think, Trent, we just had the first true SR guys come through, right?
We did. The first ever official SR graduation. That's I was out there last week, or this week, I guess. Last week. It was amazing. It's lots of years of work, and saw it all pay off. It was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I mean, so to take it back to that, I mean, they probably entered the pipeline before we started, but going and seeing the Special Warfare Training Wing, seeing some of those folks was pretty cool. Just because they're like, hey man, we listen to you. Thanks for all the information you provide and stuff like that. So I don't know, it's pretty humbling. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I think some of those guys have been in the pipeline long enough to have been log rolled by me, back at prep. Whoa. So it takes a little bit.
Got him. Yeah, and it's funny. I take myself back to, getting that phone call and when we first started talking, and Brian was like, hey, I want to get Peaches in on this thing. And I was like, oh man, I love Peaches. Obviously, like, you and I had maintained a relationship. I'm sure it was actually the other way. You were just like, who else you got? And Brian's like, oh, it's going to be me. And be like, I got this other PJ. And you're like, who is it? And you're like, Aaron Love. It's like, oh God, son of a, oh God. Getting that call, but I was surprised by it too. And I want to we'll kind of address that stuff later, like the cool stuff that we've gotten to do. But that's a huge thing with me that I had no idea. It's kind of like when I was an instructor at the schoolhouse, I had no clue that I was going to get that much job satisfaction out of it, that I was going to get that much. I was going to, we give a crap ton of our time, to the project and whatever else, but I also get way more out of it than I thought that I would. Trent, what was it like with you when you were so you don't know this, but you were the 47th choice for SR guy. We just basically hit the bottom of the barrel and there you were.
That is statistically impossible, actually, because there's not that many.
What was it like for you, especially knowing, because we were in the middle of a rebrand and you were, trying to find your way forward as a career field and, at that time as an E7 as well. What was it like with you?
I mean, if we're talking about like the beginning, it was just Brian had already reached out to me and said I had to get an Instagram page because he was getting too many questions about the new SR thing. And I was like, okay, I'll start in on Instagram. Like I barely talked to anybody on Facebook, but I tried it. And and then you start to get into it. And then, we all got that same phone call. And he was like, yeah, I'm going to start this with some other dudes that, I still haven't met you face to face, Aaron,
It's a wild thing. I know. So, we've talked about it a couple of times. I can't wait.
So I've only met Jared once. But it's just one of those things where if you look around, and you see where the world is and where the people are and the way things are going, like the best way to reach people and the most effective way to reach people are through those mediums. And so I think I was starting to see that a little bit with just being on Instagram and seeing how things were starting to blow up over there and some of the traffic I was starting to get. So, and when I was approached to be like, let's take this a step or two further or 10 steps further, it was like, yeah, let's do it. Let's see what happens. And then we've talked about before, the only really thing I'm good at in this world is taking an opportunity and saying yes, and then just like diving into it and creating chaos and see what happens. And that's the Trent Segmiller One's Ready origin story for y'all.
Which the Trent Segmiller origin story is going to be way more popular than the entire team thing. It's going to be great. I can't wait for it to come out. Peaches, you kind of hit on it earlier, but I had a ton of worry and a ton of like, hey, is anybody going to listen to this, or is anybody even going to care? But we got some really good feedback, especially in the early days. And I think it was just people that wanted some extra information and they weren't getting it on, there was Reddit, there was, a couple other websites out there. There were some people that were trying to pick up pieces and parts here and there from a million different ends. And like you said earlier, some of those things just were outdated information, and it wasn't the it wasn't the stuff that they actually needed to get there. And then, up we came. So what were some of the other challenges that you remember having in those early days of us starting, 2 years ago?
Well, I mean, let's talk about audio visual challenges. Like, still have that now. Obviously, speaking is one of those challenges as well that I constantly deal with. I guess making sure that the information is relevant. It's tough because things are always changing. Even now, and a lot of the information that we put out in a DM, and a lot of time, like, I will kind of throw out a disclaimer saying, hey, as of right now, today, this information is correct. In 2 weeks, it could change. Now, and a lot of these big picture things, they don't change in 2 weeks. But some of the minor details, like when we start talking about, different medical assessments, different color deficiency assessments, the way that they're doing things at ANS, or, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. Like, a lot of times those things change because there's one action officer that's dealing with it at that specific, wing or staff or something like that. And then it is changed and it's effective. And that doesn't really get, disseminated out to the formations and stuff like that. So that has been the challenge for me, among other things, but just ensuring that the information is accurate, especially because so many other people have very nuanced situations. That, and then telling people like, hey, I can't answer a medical question because I'm not a medical professional, and it's illegal for me to tell you, hey, you're going to be good to go, or you're not going to be good to go. That is up to the special operations recruiter and the MEPS doctors or MEPS processors. So that's it for me.
Yeah. Trent, what you got?
I think in the beginning, most of the things I was concerned about were putting my face out there, putting our faces out there, and talking about this stuff. This is for people that are not part of the community, understanding that us still being on active duty and coming out here and talking about anything associated with the career fields and putting that information out there is unusual, to say the least. And some of the pushback that I was anticipating, I think some of it came around. But you just got to push through until people see the value in what you're doing. But, I was just worried about, jacking up, or I come from a really small career field, and I'm, like we've talked about, I'm like the worst representative of that career field. So I'm trying not to embarrass them too badly every time I get my face up here.
Man, I'm so glad you said that and it wasn't me.
Yeah. Well, you should see our text messages. Jared tells me that I'm a piece of crap on a regular basis. But yeah, I mean, we come from the generation, especially of like quiet professionals. You don't put any of the stuff out there. Like I have like 2 pictures of myself from deployments because I was just like, oh, like I'm too cool to be in pictures or whatever. But yeah, it's just same as everything else. I can't come up here and preach for you guys to do something scary every day and then be like, well, this seems kind of risky to put my face out there, even though I see the potential benefits for the young guys and the community. So I mean, I was a little scared.
Trent, it's funny you say that because, like, even now, I'll get new guys into the unit. Just happened last week. One of the new lieutenants said to me, started talking to me about the podcast, and it's so funny because I'm still embarrassed about, like, it's one thing when somebody comes up and meets somebody, hey, that's great, cool, but it's like when it's my own peers that want to come talk to me about the podcast, I'm like, I don't want to talk about it. And
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
and
Dude, I never talk about it
Yeah.
at work. Like,
It's
anytime
embarrassment.
anybody asks me about it, it makes me so I don't know why, but it makes me so
I know.
mad, uncomfortable. When somebody brings it up, I'm just like even somebody wanted to talk about somebody deployed here wanted to talk, no kidding, about the SOCOM C-Cell that came on, Chief Smith came on and was like, hey man, that was a really good one. And I had to get over that initial like, ugh. They were like, you talked to him directly, what did he think about this? Did you have any other conversations? What did he think about this? I really like how we went into this. Did you guys explore it more? And I was taken aback just because I was like, oh man, should I talk about it? I don't know. So yeah, I feel that.
Yeah, it's definitely weird. Like, I'll talk about, a guest all day long, whatever, that's fine. But when we start talking about like, hey, you're on a podcast, it's like, oh, yep, okay, cool. Yeah, on to the next. Like,
Cut away.
yeah. I got to stay in my circle.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. You just got to make sure that you're not putting anything out there. But you know, I connect a lot with what you guys are saying as well, because I have those same problems too. Like, as much as I am out there, like we don't have the luxury of being behind an anonymous profile or behind, you know, just a screen name. Like, we're no kidding attaching this, you know, name and likeness and putting it out there. And then just like Trent said, you know, earlier, like, we're no kidding. You don't want to represent the career field, and I would never think that we do. But unfortunately, that's sort of where we are. And you have to be really, really careful about the information you put out there. And you always want to try to be as measured as you possibly can. But you also want to be authentic. Like, that's one of our things, is we don't necessarily want to be those dudes that are just giving the party line. So, Trent, how do you manage that balance between, you know, being your authentic self, like speaking your own truth to power, which is something that you say all the time on the group chat? How do you actually, like, yeah, I've never actually heard you say that, but that sounded funny at the time. How do you be that authentic person, but at the same time, like, you know, try to get people the most authentic stuff? Because our DMs are wild. The DMs that we get sometimes are just absolutely insane
and frustrating.
How do you?
Yeah,
and frustrating. How do you manage that balance?
Well, I think a few people out there have seen if I react to something instantly, they might see like the most authentic version of me, and sometimes I say things that aren't very nice. But you know, it's you can't fake it. You know what I mean? Like, if we're in this for the long run, and when we're going to be doing this for a long time, and people are going to meet you, like you said, like, we go everywhere, and people, like, it's weird that people know who you are and what you do when they see your face all the time. And like that voice in the back of your head that's like, if I meet someone and I'm completely different than I am on the podcast, like, it's just going to, like, burn the whole thing down. Now, I'm not saying that the words I say are the same, you know, outside the podcast. I cuss a lot more, you know, especially in the regular environment. But, you know, you get me around all the work guys and team guys, and I talk a little different. But the message is always the same, right? And just being who you are. And I just don't think that it would resonate at all if we just came on here and we're like, you know, cookie cutter, totally sanitized. Everything is sunshine and rainbows on team, and it's going to be easy, and you guys just need to join, and, like, leave that to somebody else. Like, we're here to be like, it's going to suck and it's going to be hard, and there's pros and cons to everything. And because, I mean, that's the truth, and why lie about it? Because we're obviously all here because the pros outweigh the cons for us. So there's nothing to be inauthentic about, I think, when it comes to the message, at least. Now, hiding my inner personality is something I definitely do, but not the message.
Yeah, people are going to be out there, and they're gonna see you soon enough and have a chance to see just how mean you really are in person, which I just can't wait. I can't wait till I'm around you at a graduation one time and you just get to lay into somebody. It's going to be.
Yeah, what do you like at a graduation, since you were just that one?
No, graduations, I'm like, happy-go-lucky, good job, guys, get ready. You know, like,
Hey, all right.
I mean, you've been to the graduations. They're sunshine and rainbows. That is one of the times when it's like, it's all good. Like, get ready to do more training and go out there and take the fight to the enemy. It's when the folks first get in the pipeline that it's like, kind of bring them down or remind them of where they're at in the process. Even though I have a greater appreciation now because of the podcast and everything else that we're doing, of all the amount of work that people put in before they even join, especially like certain individuals, right? Like, I'll know people-ish, social media know, before they even join. Then I'll see them over at the prep course, and it's like, bro, you've been trying to get in for like 2 years. So like, I appreciate it a little bit more, but still, they're step -3 at prep, and they're nobodies. That's
pretty cool. Yeah, I didn't even think about that aspect just because I'm so far removed from it. But yeah, you get to engage with a lot of the people that, you know, have messaged you and emailed you right there. That's pretty cool.
I got a message this morning, actually, from a guy who we've been talking for almost 2 years, and he's waiting for the A&S results to come out next week to find out if he got selected. You know what I mean? Like,
yo, how big is that for you?
It's crazy. And then, you know, there's a few other guys in the same boat, and it's just like seeing those things pay off, and then, you know, 2 years from now when they're going to graduate the pipeline, or a year and a half-ish, you know, just walking the dog on that is it's pretty amazing.
Can't wait for the one the one in the reverse where they come up to me and they knife hand me and go, "You lied to me. You 100% lied to me."
Yeah.
I also want to be there for that one. I want to see Trent get uncomfortable if someone says thank you, and I want in the same moment somebody to walk up to Chief Peaches and be like, "You son of a bitch.
You lied to me."
Yell it. you lied to me. Well, that's kind of like, what we do. There's a difference of what you do and kind of who you are. And I think we all got into One's Ready because it's who we wanted to be. We want to engage with the younger generation of people because, again, I think all of us here are early adopters for where we think the career fields go and how strong we're going to be in the future, especially seeing things from our side. We're all obviously older and higher ranking in the career fields, and we can kind of see the writing on the wall for where we're going. And we know the type of people that we're going to need in the future. And I think that's what brought me into One's Ready because it was, like we alluded to, it's a ton of work. It's a lot of our personal free time. It's frustrating at times, and it's always hard to work on a team and move forward, but it's because of, who we are. So Jared, when Brian and all of us were starting this crazy thing out, what did you connect to with One's Ready? Like, what was kind of that, because you always need a why to be involved, right? So what did One's Ready, like, what did it give you that you were so ready to just be like, yep, let's go 100% into this thing?
It gave me an opportunity to mold and shape and provide mentorship for people coming in. And it's not like that I have a whole bunch to provide, but it's ensuring that, the career fields that are important to me and, the kind of success of the idea that America is, would help, would go forward. And man, that sounds like, as I say that sounds really cheesy, but that's really what it is I just want to make sure that we are preparing the people that are going to take our place. That's really it. I wish I could give some amazing, profound thing and make it not sound cheesy, but I think that's kind of what it is.
We're going to get Lee Greenwood, Proud to Be an American, playing in the background while you say that. And I'm proud to be an American.
Ooh, let's not
Dude,
do that.
if you start crying, then I'm going to cry. It's going to be a mess.
Then I'm going to cry. I'm going to stand up when he says, and I'll proudly stand up. And then we're all going to have to get out of our seats. Going to knock my
Oh, man, we're going to have to cut that out. It sounded really bad, really cheesy as I'm sitting here thinking about it.
We're going to leave it in. That's going to be the Instagram reel. And
it's service, though, right? It really is. It's boiled down to service. Each one of us has, we're in the double digits for serving our country. And it's still another way to give back. I think once you live that kind of life of service, you still want to continue to serve something that is not just benefits yourself, but, benefits and enriches other people's lives. Yeah, that's my TED Talk.
There you go. Thanks for coming to my TED Talk. But I totally understand what you're saying. And for me, it was the love of the career field, like I love being a PJ. It was the only thing that I've ever wanted to do. And, it took me a while to get there, but it really is. Even on my worst day as a PJ is better than my best day at any other job in the entire world. And I want other people to be able to experience that. I want other people to have the ups and the downs of the career that I had. And, hopefully they'll be better than I ever am. And this was one of those things where you could really engage in a meaningful way and actually help people get there and actually help people realize their dream, as cheesy as it sounds, to earn each breath and actually succeed at something that is nearly statistically impossible. The fact that the three of us are sitting here, we represent, far less than 1% of, any given military force. And if you started putting in multipliers of, how many people make it to E8? How many people make it to E9? Yada, yada, yada. I'm sure that number would be very small. It's not the point. The point is we want people to be able to do that too. That's a cool thing to be like, hey, I was a part of this thing. The fact that we all served through GWAT and now on the back end of GWAT and into these next fights, like I'm proud of that service and what our career field has done and what the Air Force has done. And I want other people to have that pride and be able to have those opportunities as well. And this was the best way to do it. Like I couldn't imagine doing it in any more of a direct manner than this, than going, hey, here are my experiences. Here's where I've failed. Because we always talk about failure more than we talk about successes. Here's where I failed. Here's how you can avoid them. Here's how you can miss these pitfalls that we all hit and that we all spent, months and years of our lives fixing. And hopefully your path to getting there is much smoother. And then you can go have those experiences. Trent, what about you?
I mean, when we were starting it up, words are important to me. I'm not very articulate all the time, and especially when I get in front of a camera, I'm a idiot. But the words "one's ready." There was kind of a two-part thing when we came up with that name that got me. And one was the quote about the one warrior, right? Out of 100 men, 10 shouldn't be there. 80 are targets. 9 are fighters. But there's the one. The one is the warrior that will bring everybody back, right? And just trying to go out there and develop or find these people that could be that person, you know? To me, the number one is significant. And I've heard that quote a lot throughout my career. And I'm not saying I'm that guy. I'm just saying that quote.
You're not that one guy.
The quote is inspirational. You know what I mean? I'm not saying like, hey, like we were out there and they wouldn't have made it back if it wasn't for me. But you know what I mean? That quote, it speaks to me a little bit as far as the community goes, because I see a lot of those people in the community. You know, the one guy. And I think when our people in our community get the opportunity to rise to that occasion, it's look at the citations. It happens. It's the reality of the AppSpec War community. And then the second thing is, so when the students are in the pool and you say one's ready, and everybody's had that moment where you get goosebumps, and there's that moment when the students come together as a team and they're almost telling the sergeant that he can go pound sand because they're stronger than whatever he can bring their way. And you say one's ready and they scream back one sergeant or whatever number they're on, and it's like a challenge. And they're a team, and they're working all together, and it's all coming together. Like that means something to me. I'm freaking getting the bumps right now just thinking about it. You know what I mean? But
and now Lee Greenwood Part 2 gets played in the background. We're gonna get a waving flag behind you. We need some green screen action. This is gonna be great.
But you know, I mean, that's just that moment where like all that hard work comes together, and you'll see it, and then you have almost everybody that's on the team at that moment is gonna make it, and you just know it. So that's why I really dug the name once we got into it and I started thinking about it and attaching my own, reasons behind it.
There's a lot of scar tissue behind the name or not the name, but the saying one's ready.
Yeah.
Listen, I didn't know where you were going with it, but my heart rate was 194 beats a minute, and I was ready for anything. Like if somebody would have Kool-Aid man through this plywood door that they'd be like, get your crap. We're going outside, brother. I'd be like, oh no, here we go. But I love seeing that as an instructor. That was my absolute favorite thing. Like, I am so glad that you brought that up, kind of because we always have ritual, right? And ritual is built into everything that we do in selection. We have the instructors will say a phrase and the students are expected to respond to that phrase. And sometimes the students are just not motivated. You can hear it in their voice. You can hear it, you can hear that team is not ready for that event. But then you're dead right. There is that one time when you're like, all right, here we go. One's ready. And they just rock whatever place that they're in, just screaming at you. And it is a little F you to the instructors. It is a little like, hey, this is a fight and I'm not going to let you sit here and punch me in the mouth. Like we're going to give it back to you however it is that we can. I love those moments. I think I love those moments as a student. Going through my second time, I was a little bit older, a little bit wiser. I'd seen the ritual happen before. Like I'd had those moments before. So I was like, yeah, the team's getting it. I think I like seeing it as an instructor even better. I think those moments to me, the times that I really remember are when the teams came together, like you said, and just absolutely performed and absolutely just crushed something. And I was happy to take the L that day and walk away from whatever team, just decided to win in that moment. Because that's what it's all about.
I've only seen it from a student point of view, but yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Was life different when you were going through as a student in the Great Depression? I imagine it was.
Yeah, we didn't have much food. I think that's still the same way now. Are we going Great Depression jokes?
It's
an all-time low.
I just skipped Vietnam. I went straight to it.
I sped right past Vietnam. I'm going to be like, oh, man, that's crazy. Did you hear about the assassination of Franz Duke Ferdinand when you were in the pool at Indok? That's a World War I joke. I can go further back if we need to. But, Peaches, that one's ready thing, we were kind of talking right before we got on, but you were talking about, what does that mean to you? Like what, always being ready or one always being, rising to the challenge. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. What's your dig on the one's ready name?
Well, okay. So if, one's ready, meaning you're ready, you should always be ready. And that doesn't, That means physically, mentally, if being able to not only, whether it's protecting yourself, providing for your family, providing for yourself, being successful in a career field, whatever it is, it's being ready. And being ready kind of for anything. It doesn't mean that you're an expert in one area or another, but it's like, hey, be physically fit, be physically ready to take on anything. Because I'll tell you what, you don't know if it's going to, we always talk about combat and training, stuff like that. A lot of times this stuff doesn't happen in combat. You can look at Dan Keller, Tech Sergeant, Master Sergeant type. I can't remember. Sorry, Dan. But I mean, he just got awarded an Airman's Medal. Right? So, meaning if for anybody watching, an Airman's Medal is an event or an incident that happens in kind of like if it happened right here in Washington with me, if I was driving down the street and something happened, say a car accident or a fire or something like that, and I responded to it, if I put my life in direct danger, a risk of being harmed or killed, then I would be eligible for an Airman's Medal. It's very rare. Kind of as rare as his other awards, if you start thinking about it. So again, happened. I don't know the details of it, but it had to have happened here in a kind of a peacetime or a garrison type situation. But he was
a car accident, I believe.
Is that what it was?
So
okay, yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to check it out.
The car, yeah.
But I mean that's what happens a lot. I remember there were I think 2 airmen up by Creech. In Nellis, where there was really bad rains. That whole road, people's cars were getting washed away, and these 2 airmen jumped in to help save this elderly couple. Like, that's an Airman's Medal because they almost got swept underneath and crushed by cars. So it's like you have to be ready. So, when people complain about, hey, I got to take an Air Force PT test or something like that, like, hey, man, it's a pretty easy test, and you could be called on at any point, whether it's for service or outside of service, to help someone or help yourself. So be ready. So that's a tangent, but whatever.
It's okay. That's the point of having your own podcast, my friend, is you just get to go on tangents and people can just listen to it.
You will listen to me.
You will listen to me. You will not fast forward this part. I swear I can see it when you do it. Trent, how do you kind of feel about that, man? Because obviously, I will be ready at all times is a part of the motto, part of the pararescue creed. It's something that we say over and over and over again, before personal desires and comforts, and we all share that same ethos in the aspect war community. What's your view on that personal readiness thing, and how does that fit into one's ready?
Well, I think being an instructor in the front end of the pipeline, you see kids drag a lot of baggage into the pipeline with them, right? And so like the list of things that they have to get through to be successful is longer than it has to be. So one of the things, there's always the physical readiness and all that other stuff, but for me, the one of the big things I saw that students, one of the reasons they failed is they had too much going on upstairs in their brain, or they had past relationships or continuing relationships that were bringing them down, or doubts and ways of doing business in their brain that were leading to negative results. Comparing themselves to other people, thinking that just because this other kid is good at PT that he actually knows what's going on, and because you don't look like him, you're not going to be successful. All that kind of nonsense. And so beyond the physical readiness and all that other stuff, I'm trying to pare down that list as best I can before they even come in, so that they can focus on the task at hand. And I think that's one of the big things for me is the mental fortitude, the clearing out your brain of all the stuff that doesn't need to be there, all the additional stressors, and if I can get them started on that path of realizing what they need to stress about and what they don't need to stress about, I think that's part of my big, part of what I'm doing this for, and that's just because of my experience at the very front end of the pipeline with these guys. And,
you're talking about a massive pipeline, right? And I've heard you say it before, Trent, like what different people bin or categorize things differently. So instead of looking at an entire pipeline, I got to get through BMT until I get my beret, is okay, first things first. What's the first event? Okay, BMT. And if BMT or whatever it is an overwhelming thought, then okay, what are the events for today? It's just like showing up at ANS. Like, may or may not know the events, but it's like, okay, well, let me get through this portion. Let me focus on this portion. Clear my head. Forget about everything else. Let me focus on this. Then that's complete. On to the next. Instead, you're right. Guys get in their head and then they start worrying about all the stuff in front of them, and then it becomes overwhelming, especially when they're already in a mentally beat down place. That is overwhelming. I mean, just to think about it right now, like, hey, 2.5 year pipeline, man, that's daunting just right off the bat. So break it up, chunk it up.
Well, and those negative thoughts are funny. They're like all your negative energy and thoughts and all this other stuff, wazoo hippie stuff, outside your brain. Like, you let one of them in, that dude is holding the door for all the other stuff, and we've all seen it. Because it's not just one that comes in. They open up the floodgates, and it's a downward spiral. So, yeah, but that's what I'm trying to do. Aaron?
So if you had something that you could say, Trent, to all those, those guys, those girls that are getting ready right now, if you had chunk it up and just take things as they come. But what are the big mistakes, especially, you seeing it, like you see it firsthand, day in, day out, for people that are, just about getting ready and getting in from development all the way in, like, what are you seeing now that are those mistakes? Because that's why we're here, right? We're here to give them that information so they can avoid it. So is it mental preparation? Is it not knowing what to do physically? Is it having the information and not applying it? What are you seeing?
I mean, it's both things. So we've talked about before, the more physically fit you are, the greater the bandwidth on the mental side that you're going to have to deal with problems. But the tendency to not treat yourself as an individual and let the process decide whether or not you're good enough. You shouldn't decide if you're good enough or not. Just go through the process, y'all. Like, stop worrying so much about what could happen and wait for it to happen. We run a pretty professional pipeline. Everybody knows what's going on. Don't eliminate yourself before you're eliminated. Because I promise, if you don't eliminate yourself every day and you come out there and you work as hard as you can, odds are in your favor. The thing that gets most people out of the pipeline, I think, is they get into their own heads. And when they have one bad day, and just stick around until we kick you out. You know what I mean? Obviously, do your job and don't do anything stupid and don't do anything dangerous. But that's what I see.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, Aaron. I know we're on a delay, but it's. I'm thinking about it. How many people do you see? I know that I saw it all the time. Is that people they let that negativity, that toxicity into their head, and then as we're going through an event, 10 ups or grass and gorilla drills or whatever it is, that's their event that they're dreading or that they're suffering in, and then they quit, but it's always after the end of the event. It's never during.
Right. It's
like, what is that, dude? You finished it. It's done.
So I was no kidding. It was eval day. For those of you that don't know, on eval days, the instructors do not screw with you in the midst of the eval. So usually eval days are, back in the INDOC, it was on Mondays. I'm sure it's the same now. I can't speak for ANS now, but when you're getting evaluated, typically the instructors, especially if it's a physical evaluation, you can screw up, and the instructors are just there with a clipboard and they're like, "No, I'm gonna keep track of this. We're gonna fix this one later," right? So we had not been having a good eval day. Like, we just could not. The team could not figure it out. We couldn't count together. We couldn't slap the mats together. We couldn't figure anything out. So we had dry land eval in the morning, and then we had WaterCon eval in the afternoon. So we went in the afternoon, and the pool was just a shit show. It was terrible. The worst. So now retired Chief Ron Thompson, was running the pool deck that day, and he was just he stopped. He's like, "You know what, guys? I'm just going to stop counting. This is disgusting. We're just going to handle this afterwards." So as soon as we get done with the water, and everybody you start gaming it a little bit. So we had people, and they're like looking at the clock, and they're like, "How long do we have before this pool session is over? How long until the bus gets here?" And it was like an hour. And we were just like, "Oh no, that's plenty of time. Oh no, this is terrible."
A lot can happen in an hour.
Oh yeah.
Oh, a lot can happen in an hour at the pool, baby. So we were just like, "Oh, this is not going to be good." And sure enough, he just goes, "All right, count off by twos." And everybody was just like, oh no. And we felt it. We're just like, we're going to do 10 ups until we die. Like, this is it. We're going to do 10 ups for an hour. Sure enough, two people, like he's like, okay, one's over there, two's over there. So we all we're sitting there. We're not even allowed to say N to B anymore, are we? So we have to say pelvis to pelvis, I guess. So we are sitting as close as we possibly can to one another on the pool. And two guys get out and they're like, I want to quit. And he was like, you want to quit right now? Are you sure? And they were like, yep. And no hesitation, they walked over and they blew the horn. And he was like, huh? Okay. So they quit. They're getting their stuff ready. And they like they were still sitting there. And he's like, okay, go out and, get your gear together. The Skylark pool, everybody, you can open it up so you can still hear it. These guys start getting dressed. And Ron Thompson goes, I want you men to pay attention. You never quit before you know what we're doing. You guys had an off day. Sometimes you need a break. And we played underwater tactical evasion. Underwater tactical evasion was, we had a national level swimmer on my team. He had to go into the middle. You had to do an underwater and get past the guy. And if he tapped you or grabbed you, then you were also an attacker. And we were like, do you mean sharks and minnows?
Yeah.
And he was like, no, it's underwater tactical evasion. This is an actual event.
You heard what I said.
This is alternate water. Yeah, he's like, but this is alternate water con for the day. And those two dudes had to get their gear on. They just ended their pipeline while we were playing sharks and minnows.
Holy
I
cow.
always remember that. And when he said that, he was like, you guys had a terrible day today. He's like, sometimes you just have a bad day. Sometimes you just need to put it behind you. He was like, we're all human. Like, we already talked about as instructors. I don't know what your problem was today. You better come back tomorrow ready to get after it. And we, no kidding, we played sharks and minnows for like 45 minutes and then got out of the pool. And that was it.
Man, there's a lot to unpack out of that.
Don't quit. Do not quit.
Yeah, don't dwell on what's the possibility. Sitting here having anxiety about and worrying about what could happen or what's about to happen, and it may not happen. You just need to always be ready. And then okay, so had a bad day. Look at what RT did. Recognizing, all right, everybody had a bad day. You need to fix yourselves. Obviously, everybody's brain is just spazzed out. Let me hit the reset button. And that's all he did. He made the dreading of the pool and the events into a good thing. That's awesome. Yeah. And who doesn't love sharks and minnows? It's fantastic.
It's underwater tactical evasion, yeah. Chief, and get it right or pay the price.
I couldn't remember what you said, so
it was totally sharks and minnows. Yeah, but that's one of those things that I always remember. There was a guy that quit on our extended training day, and it was no kidding. And I was grabbing him by his shirt, and I was like, "Dude, we are done." Like we were doing like log PT as the sun was coming up in San Antonio. We were done. I was like, "Buddy, we're finished. This is gonna be over, man. Like we are gonna go along with this day. Like we are done." And he was just like, "No, I'm done." He was just unable to keep it going like that. Dread just got to him. Trent, you got anything like that? You're still here, so I know you don't have any stories like that. But.
Well, and my experiences are a little bit different. So I know. I mean, I've seen a lot of kids quit. It's just silly stuff. It's like you wake them up for an ETD or something, and if you change the order of what you usually do, I know at the CCT and South T selection course, every once in a while you change it up, and instead of waking up and going on a ruck first thing, we'd wake them up, throw in the van, straight to the pool. And like we'd have guys that were really strong in the water, but like I get it that you've only been up for 20 minutes, but like you can do this. It's nothing crazy. And they'd quit right away. It's just the unknown. It's just like, dude, just deal with what's in front of you because you can do the underwaters. Like that's what they quit on is underwaters. And the instructors are not like, for the most part, the instructors are not giving themselves like each other high fives and like congratulating themselves on getting someone to quit, especially in like that type of environment. It's just like, what? Why? It's right there, dude. Like the gold ring is literally just a series of days like this until you get to the end and you're more than capable. It's frustrating. I get frustrated.
Yeah. I'll tell you, as a guy that's run those selections and was an instructor way later, we didn't see anybody quit at Kirtland. That just wasn't a thing at that point because, in-dock was your time to even entertain it. But I've been on that pool deck in San Antonio running the cross trainee selections when they were still going on. And I will tell you straight up as an instructor, no instructor takes pride or is happy when somebody quits. their job, their goal, their overall life's goal when they're there. If we could graduate 100% of the people, we would. I used to tell people that all the time. If every single one of you here puts out, makes a standard, is a good person, has those attributes that we're looking for, the grit, the teamwork, the determination, the leadership, the ability to solve problems, physically fit, all of these things, I want to graduate 100% of you, period. Nobody ever takes joy in watching somebody make that decision, no matter what they say. There's always instructors that are out there that are, the tough instructors that, they're saying they're trying to make people quit. That's not really a thing. Sorry to everybody that I just blew your cover as an instructor. It's just not really a thing. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you pass. And that's really why we're here at One's Ready, to kind of make it relevant to the conversation that we're talking about. Is we, all of us, Brian, Trent, Peaches, myself, we want to see you succeed. We want those stories of you guys graduating. When I hear that phrase, One's Ready and earn each breath, like those aren't just words. They're sweet taglines. Go get your shirt today. But it really is like, I want you to tell me that you just got picked up from A&S. I had somebody message me the other day on my DMs. It was like, hey man, do I get hair like that when I put my beret on? I was like, hey, careful guy, you haven't earned anything yet. He's like, I'm in dirt med, I'm almost there. I was like, well, I'm gonna call the instructor and make sure you get some extra love out of it. But that's awesome. I can't wait until he graduates. That's amazing. That's what we want. Like that's why I'm here. I want to see you guys and girls succeed. I want you to use the information that we're giving you to get to where you want to be, to get that beret on your head, and more importantly, get out and actually pay it forward and go do the job. Like you are the next generation of people that's going to get out there and get after these mission sets that are extremely complex. And who knows? I don't even know if I could solve the missions that are coming up. We need you, because I don't know if I have the capacity to do it. I'm certainly getting, older in the tooth. I got more gray hairs than I do black at this point. So we're going to need some people that can actually get after these and solve them in inventive ways. And, that's why we exist. So I think as always, we'll end it with our piece of advice from the three of us. So Peaches, I'll turn it over for you. What do you have to say? Like we talked about who we are and what we do and all this other stuff, but what do you got for people out there?
I was really hoping you'd call on me last, but because I don't have anything.
Okay, Trent, go ahead.
No, it's cool. I'll take it. Okay, so, well, just to tag on something that you said, Aaron, when you talked about the one guy that quit after the end of the day, for all those that think, especially for the cross trainees, I noticed this more in the cross trainees than the brand new airmen, but you can't save everybody. I've said it before, you can't save everybody. You can't start with 100 people and end with 100 people. Like it just statistically won't happen regardless of how we want it to work out, right? So if somebody's going to quit and they already have it in their head, they're going to. Like you can probably say like, hey man, you sure you want to do this? Okay, cool. But once they start walking, they've already made the decision. You're not going to be able to save them. So don't dwell on the fact that they quit. It's not a failure on you. They had it in their head. So that's what I would say to that. And in terms of advice, man, just keep preparing. I'll go back to what we've said in the past. The pipeline and all this training is 80% mental, 20% physical. So the more you train and the more you make that 20% easier and something that kind of just runs in your subconscious, it's not a thing. You're not physically worried about it. That's 20% more bandwidth you have to focus on the mental game, the mental struggles that you will face throughout the pipeline. So train your ass off. When you're going out for a 6-mile run and by mile 3, mile 4, you're hurting and you're thinking like, I don't need to do 6 miles today. I could just turn around and come back and it'll be fine. No, you have to finish it. And it's not even you're needing to finish it because of the physicality portion of it. That is the gaining that mental strength. We always get asked, how are you supposed to train your mental game? Are you just supposed to put yourself in the suck constantly? And no, that's not how you do it. You do it by not quitting when you want to quit.
Sheer discipline. Absolutely. Trent, you find yourself in the awesome position, man. You're very close to standing up your own schoolhouse. You're very close to moving forward with some SR goodness. What do you got for those SR candidates out there?
I would say when you join the pipeline, don't forget whose team you're on. And when I talked about that moment when the students yell one's ready, and they're kind of like telling the instructor to pound sand, one of the reasons they're doing that is because they've realized that we're all on the same team. And we're almost like all equals there, whether you're on the pool deck or in the pool or wherever you're at. The instructors are on your team. So don't become a victim of what's happening. Be an active participant in what's happening around you. You wanted to be here. You want to go through the training. You want to put yourself through this. Hopefully you've put all the physical training in on the front end so that you have that capacity to just keep moving forward. And you don't really even need us there to tell you what to do to move forward. So don't adopt the victim mentality. Keep moving forward and keep your eye on the prize. It's not a bad idea to every once in a while think about what it's going to be like once you get on team, but just don't take all the negative that you don't even know about and shove it into today's stress. So wake up every day knowing that whatever the instructor tells you to do, like that dude is your teammate. You're the dude that's sitting next to you that's talking about quitting is not your teammate. That instructor is your teammate. So the process is a positive process, and don't ever get sucked down into that negativity and all that nonsense.
Man, I love it. Well said, boys. Another one in the can. We've done it. Ladies and gentlemen, the team room. Got them. Everything one's ready today. I want to thank you guys for coming out. I really appreciate it. Thanks for following us on all the socials. Check us out at onesready.com. Go to our partners page. We talked about Out of Regs pomade today, but we got a ton of them. If you need some coffee, we got you. If you need some rehydration drink, we got you. If you need a sweet pack to get your outdoor ruck on, we got you. We got a whole lot of stuff for you. One's Ready at every single checkout that we got there. So check out the partners page on onesready.com. Follow us on our socials. Hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a review. Podcast drop on Saturdays from now to the end of time, baby. So hit us up. If you guys got anything, hit us in the DMs. As always, earn each breath, train hard. We'll see you next time out here.
Later.